Hey everyone, this is Rachel. Thanks for clicking on my video. And I just came in today to talk about an interview that President Obama gave here recently. In this interview, there was a question that was asked of him that interested me because I was, very curious to hear his answer to the question. And the question that the interviewer asked President Obama was, had he faced racism while he was in office? Now, before I get to his answer and before I get to my opinion on his answer, I want to take a couple steps back. And I wanted to go back to the time when President Obama was running and just set the stage for what my opinion of this man has been. Now, I must admit that when President Obama was running, I had vaguely heard of him. So I was not in his camp. Back then, I was a Hillary supporter. Now, what brought my attention to President Obama was my then 21-year-old son. I was talking to him one day about who he was going to vote for, and he started telling me about this Barack Obama and how I needed to pay attention to some of the things that he was saying. Now, at the time that I had this conversation with my son, President Obama was going to Iowa, and he had given this speech. And that night, I promised my son that I would watch it. Now, when President Obama started talking, I was laying in my bed and just watching him speak. By the time he ended this speech, I was at the foot of my bed, sitting up, very, very interested in what he had to say, and having been completely turned around from being a Hillary supporter to, at that point, I was now going to be a Barack Obama supporter. Now, it wasn't that I didn't believe in him, and I'm not the type of person that would just vote for someone because they were black. It's that I knew, what the Clintons had done for America when Bill Clinton was president, and I didn't know who Barack Obama was, so I didn't want to waste my vote. Now, that's what I thought at the time. I never believed that a black man could be elected in America. So at the time, I was trying to weigh my options, and I thought, okay, he's running, but he's not really going to win. Now, that's what I was thinking at the time. But after watching that speech, I was solidly now in his camp. Now, after that speech that I watched, and I think this was right after he won Iowa, when he was campaigning, or doing his part to become elected, president. I started watching him more and more, and just watched all the speeches that he did, and watched all that he went through with that Jeremiah Wright. Is that his name, Wright or Rice? Jeremiah Wright controversy. And I watched the speech that he gave on race, and I liked him better. Now, as I watched President Obama, campaign, then win the nomination as the, the Democrats picked to run for president, I started again liking him more and more. What I noticed about him is that he was intelligent, he was very calm and very poised, and I felt at the time that he was the best shot that we had in a long time of being president. Now, when I was younger, I was around when Jesse Jackson ran for president. Now, as a young person, I didn't know what I was doing, and I just voted for Jesse Jackson because he was black. I don't even think I paid attention to, him campaigning, any of that. I just voted for him because he was black. I didn't understand politics back then. But as I watched President Obama, I realized quickly, following him on the campaign trail, that there was, a very good chance that this man could possibly make it into the White House. And then when he finally did win the nomination, I was blown away. First of all, blown away that he had made it that far. Now he was the pick for the Democrats, and he was going to go up against John McCain. Now, even then, I thought to myself, well, the Democrats have nominated him, but I really, didn't think he was gonna win. Now, secretly in the back of my mind, I was thinking, please let him win. I had a little inkling that, because of his charisma and because of the way he could rile a crowd and get them up on their feet, that there was a good possibility. But because it had never happened in the history of America, I always said, no, they're not going to let him, they're not going to let this black man in. And then I also watched how our people, meaning black people, they said a couple things about President Obama when he was campaigning, that really struck something in me. He wasn't black enough, he wasn't white enough, he wasn't this, he wasn't that. So then it takes us to the night of election night, and they were getting all the results in, and President Obama was slowly moving ahead. And then around 10 o'clock, 10 something, we realized that Barack Obama, was going to be our next president. Like everyone, I was very happy. Like a lot of black people, I cried. I never thought it would happen. And it was a moment in time where there were, grandparents of mine that I wish had lived to see that moment. There were other family members that were older in my family that I only wish that they were watching from heaven to see what America had done. Now, the one thing that did cross my mind after he won and then, he was elected was, my God, I hope he makes it through. Because we know a lot of times when we have, these black people who become prominent in politics or who are on the national stage like that, they have been assassinated. It was a sad reality, and when I talked to my grandmother, my mother, and people of that generation, they were very worried for him. Once he was inaugurated, that inauguration day was a happy day for me. First of all, my son, because he had, worked on Barack Obama's campaign trail as a paid I forgot the title that my son was. But anyway, my son got tickets to the inauguration. And he was very happy, and I was happy for him because he believed in Barack Obama when no one really knew who a Barack Obama was. And for my son to go to be invited to the inauguration with 2 tickets was a moment for him that I think he won't ever forget. So that brings me to Inauguration Day. I was crying like everyone else. I was so very happy for him. But again, I was worried for him. Now, once he got into office, I quickly saw that the Republicans were not going to work with him. They were going to do everything that they could to make his time in the White House the roughest the most terrible that they could. You remember when he was giving a speech and the guy yelled out, I think he was giving a State of the Union or something like that. And the guy yelled out, "You lie." It was the utmost disrespect of a president before, the country that I've ever seen in all of my 51 years. I had never seen anyone yell out in chamber like that and disrespect the president in that manner. And I knew just from that he was going to have a hard road ahead of him. And let's face it, folks, he has. Also, too, as President Obama moved through these 8 years that he's been in office, our people have been some hard critics of him. I have friends and people that I know that always talk about what President Obama did not do for Black people. Now, when he took office, I understood that he was president of everyone. First of all, we have to remember that he is 50% Black and 50% white. He was the best man for the job of being the first quote-unquote Black president. With that being said, I had no illusions with him coming into office. I knew that he could not get in office and basically cater to every whim that Black people wanted him to do. I knew that. I was an adult enough to know that for him to be remotely successful, he had to kind of be colorblind. There was this threat always out there of him being assassinated. He had to have Secret Service detail earlier than any presidential candidate in history, I believe, because there was always that threat that he would be killed. I'm just so upset with some Black people that put all this pressure and all this, I guess, responsibility on him to make their lives better. I always felt that as long as he did a good job making the country better, that we would benefit from that as a people. It seems like to me that a lot of Black people felt that he should have just had a Black agenda, paid attention to everything that was ailing the Black community. And y'all know deep inside that was not going to work. I've had people, say, well, look what he did for the Jews, or look what he did for this group or that group. Why couldn't he do this and that for Black people? And sometimes when they say that, I look at them and I wonder, exactly what they're made of. When you sit back and watch what this man has gone through just to even get the things passed that he did. When you think about all the snide remarks, the things that have been said about him, all that his family has gone through, and then you're throwing as a Black person one more thing on that pile, I just have to question, what are you doing in your own life? Now, I am just the average working class Black person. I survive on my own, getting up and just going out to work. Now, I didn't have any type of fantabulous job. I was just a regular person working, and whatever I had in my life, I got up and worked for it. There have been times in my life when things were not great, y'all, where, I may have been laid off from my job and, had to accept public assistance for a time until I could find another job. I've never been fired from a job. I've never quit a job without having another job. But there have been times in my life where, through no fault of my own, I found myself receiving food stamps. And mostly it was a time, well, basically it wasn't a lot of times. There was a time when I got laid off and I could not literally find a job. I applied for jobs that were, at my level of expertise and even jobs below, and no one would hire me. It took me 7 months to find a job. I had bills to pay, I had children to feed, and I did whatever I could to make sure that my family was okay. And included in doing that was me going to Medicaid, or whatever it's called, the Department of Job and Family Services, and saying, hey, I need help. And I took that help because I had been a taxpayer all of my adult life, and I felt like it was time to get back some of what I had paid in taxes. I took that help until I got back on my feet. I said thank you, and then I went on to whatever job I have found to help take care of my kids. Now, it brings me to what Barack Obama said in this interview. He said that, yes, he felt that he had, been a victim of racism while he was in office, which was very apparent to all of us. He has been very much disrespected and in the position that he held as the most powerful man in the world, actually. I felt and I watched, him being disrespected over and over. One of the biggest disrespects is they didn't believe that, he was actually born here in the United States. And that was to delegitimize his presidency. They will not give him props for all that he has accomplished these 8 years while he's been in office. I tell my mother that history will reward Barack Obama, not the people today. There are people who definitely don't believe that unemployment has gone down. There are people that definitely don't believe that the economy is doing better. There are people that definitely don't believe that the Affordable Care Act has benefited some people. These are the facts, people. I mean, when you look at where we were when he took office and where we are now, you cannot dispute facts. Also, I gotta go back to this, y'all. I cannot believe that our people have been some of the biggest critics of him. The biggest critics of him. This man was just the first. The first, y'all. He set the stage for whoever is to come after him. My God, give him a break. Could we not give him a break? He was the first. There was no blueprint for what he was going to do being the first, or what he could do, or what he could get away with being the first. There was no blueprint for him. He is the blueprint. So what will happen is, through the years, now we have had a black president. So he opened the door for another man or woman who is of color to run. And maybe when they get in, they can do some of the things that you black people out there felt that Barack Obama did not do. But let's not forget, this man was the first. I'm so disappointed in y'all. He was the first. He had a hard uphill battle, to even just have respect, let alone get some things done. We can be the worst critics of each other. I had heard my elders say that when I was younger, how, as black people, we are more critical of each other than, sometimes outside people is. And I never wanted to believe that, because, when something nationally goes on, we seem to band together. But then as I, become an adult, I realize that some of the things that my elders say, about us as a people are painfully true. It never it ceases to amaze me. It boggles my mind. And when it comes to President Obama, it makes me sad, that even his own people were, talking negatively about him. And again, I have to ask, what in your life could you have done to make your life better? You're sitting around waiting for someone else to make it better, or waiting for him to do something that was going to change your life. I named things that he did that could have changed your life. Unemployment went down. All of the things that I named, those things could have helped you if you go out here and look for a job, or get yourself to the point where you are job ready or whatever. Like I said, there have been times in my life where I wasn't qualified, or I felt that I needed to do something to make myself better. If it meant going to a training class for 6 months or so, or learning something so I can take care of my damn kids, I did it. And I would say to myself, well, I got to go to this training class. I'm not going to be able to work full time, but these 6 months, if I get through this will help me and my kids, in the long run. Or if I go to this job and work here, this will give me experience to, later on in life, make a better life for my kids, or give me more, experience in this field that I've chosen. I've made sacrifices. I've suffered sometimes in those sacrifices. My kids have. But when we got through that time that I knew was going to be hard, we came out on the other end with me being able to get a better job. Each time it helped me get a better job, meaning that next job paid a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. All of that sacrifice was to help me take care of my family, so I wouldn't have to ask anyone to help me. Life is not easy. We all know that. I've gone through ups and downs in my life, and sometimes I look back on them and I wonder how I got through them, but I did. So to bring this back around to President Obama, he has about, I believe, 40 days or 45 days left in office. And y'all, as I sit here and think about him, his legacy, and what he tried to do, I am proud of him. I am proud to have been an adult and, young enough to appreciate, his time in office, and sit back and watch the things that he was able to get accomplished. I say all that because our next president, the man who's going to take office in January, is absolutely terrifying. The cabinet that he is picking is not, if you're paying attention, people, we're in trouble. You thought that President Obama was bad for you. You didn't support him. You criticized him. You said that he didn't do what you thought he was going to do for black people. Well, get ready. Put your boots on, strap up, get ready. Because if you thought the last 8 years were bad, if you thought that the last 8 years were bad, and that the president that we had didn't care about black people, get ready January 21st. Because we're going to have a president that truly doesn't give a damn about us. And you'll see what it's like to actually go through an administration that is lily white. And folks, that's pretty much all I have to say on this subject. I just really hate to see this man go, and I think on the day, that he actually leaves office, I might be shedding some tears. I shedded tears when he came into office, and as it moves closer to the time for him to leave office, I'm getting sadder and sadder. And it's not so much, who we have coming in office. It's that I like the man, Barack Obama. I like him. We had 8 years of basically a scandal-free administration. And that's something to be said, because the last few presidents that we've had have had major scandals. Major. And for the first black president to get into office and really have nothing major happen on his watch, no major scandals, is something in itself. So with that, folks, thank you for taking the time to listen to my video. You guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. You have a great day now. Bye-bye.